This is crazy, I'm tired, I can feel myself getting worn down. For what, essentially? My wife's an interior designer, she had a shop. I was pretty burnt out at the time with work. Your kids grow up so quick, you know. Essentially, you'll probably have 16, 17 summers with them until they don't want to be around you anymore. Move to Bali, get some sanity back, get off the treadmill, get your life back, get your health back, reconnect with your family. And we did our first 6 months and it was like life-changing. It's been incredible. Like the ability for the kids that we see now to be able to adapt. Life skills, absolutely. Like just street smarts, amazing. And our fourth was born in Bali. So we've got a girl that's 18, a boy that's 14, another boy that's 11, a girl that's 9, and then we had this, that's who was born in Bali. So Coco was born in Bali. And I come here and I've got so much more time with my wife, kids. Moving the kids to Bali has been best thing ever.
How do you manage like 5 kids at all different ages?
Guys, this one is actually one of my favorite shows. It's actually really diverse, very different from the rest of the people we've had. So this is for people out there who've got families who have all these doubts. So today I want to introduce to you one of my good friends, Dan. Dan has 5 kids coming from Australia, okay? And most people, when they have kids, or 1 kid or 2 kids, they think that this life is impossible. Well, this guy's got 5 kids, and he's managed to pull off some amazing stuff, now living out here in Bali with his kids, living the best life the way that he was to live it. So guys, stay tuned and get ready to listen to this episode of Korean Freedom.
All right, so we got a special guest. This is our first guest that we have that is from Australia. So in the southeast Melbourne. So yeah, let's just get into it. I guess the first question is, what's your definition of freedom and what's that look like to you?
Yeah, good question. I think the definition of freedom would be just to be able to manage your family yourself without having complete limitations on a 9-to-5 type scenario where you can work when you want to work if that's what you need to do, and have the ability to travel to a certain degree, whether that's worldwide or just to any extent within your own country, and not be tied. So at the minute's notice, if there's something you want to do, I think we've got these preconceived ideas where, people they plan a long way out, traditionally, particularly where we're from. People are going, we're planning our next year's holiday, 12 months' time, we're going to go interstate, or we're going to do a Europe trip or something. And now we're seeing lots of friends and ourselves and going, in 3-4 weeks, let's go to Turkey, let's see what that's like. And, obviously it costs money, and a little bit of planning, but I think to be able to do that and to, expose your kids to all that sort of stuff and even yourselves, I think that's probably a pretty good definition of, freedom.
Yeah. So at the moment, like you've brought your entire family to Bali, I guess, and you got to deal with so many logistics, right? And decisions as well. I wanted to sort of go back, from when you were back in Melbourne, right? What was the life before, and then what what was the lead up to the decision?
Yep.
Where you've come out?
How it came about was my wife and I travelled to Bali pre-kids. So we had our honeymoon here in Bali, in Legia, I think it was and we love the place, we love the people. So we that was primitive Bali times. Canggu was really, not much happening. There was expats living in Canggu, but certainly a whole lot different than what it looks like now. But yeah, we love the people, and we knew there was stuff happening here. But, went back home, we had our first 2 children, and over a series of maybe 5 or 6 years. And, as the kids got older, we were looking at, just breaking the mould, I suppose. And we were looking at something a bit different in the schooling systems as well. And my wife had stumbled across a school here called the Green School, and we wanted to come and give that a bit of a go with our kids. So by the time we did that, the big picture was to come over for 6 months of the year and set up here for 6 months and go back. So we sort of achieved 2 pretty good things, which was do 2 terms of school out of the 4 in Bali at the Green School, and also escape Melbourne winter every year. So that was a big plus. So so what it was, back when we really wanted to do it, I had a business. I'm an arborist, so I had about a dozen staff working for me, contracting to the government in Melbourne, and we had a really good show going on there. And my wife's an interior designer. She had a shop and a retail space locally, and we just sort of said, let's do it. I was pretty burnt out at the time with work, and was looking to sort of find the end, find the end to that business. I could just feel myself just working myself into the ground, and missing a lot of the kids. I think by that stage we had 3, and then it was just like, this is crazy. I'm tired. I can feel myself getting worn down, and for what, essentially? It gets to a point where we just had one of those moments, I think. And so we sort of engineered everything in the business to be able to work without me, put people in the right spots. And we just said, bugger it, let's go. Let's just go and do 6 months, enroll the kids. I think we only had 1. I know we had 2 the first time we came. So we had 1 in kinder and 1 in maybe grade 2 or 3 or something like that. And we loved it. We rented the first year, short-term rental, and then we ended up buying a place, like a 30-year lease on a place in Brower, Canggu, when it was super quiet. I think there was like 1 coffee shop in Jalan Pente Brower, and now there's about 800. But and we did our first 6 months, and it was like life-changing, absolutely life-changing. We just reconnected as a family. The kids were happy. We got away from Melbourne winter. Yeah. You can relate to that probably with the UK.
Just for people watching this, I said I was a bit naive. I always thought Australia was hot. Until I started traveling, I met so many Australians, and it was like, it's so cold back home. I'm like, what, cold?
Yeah, you got to be up north to get the heat.
Yeah, okay.
Our summers are good. Our summers are pretty good, but you just do the hard yards through winter in Melbourne. So
how cold does it get?
Oh, it's probably, at night you get down to 0 pretty consistently in winter, but it's just not. It just hasn't got a lot of upside. We don't have snow, so you haven't got that aesthetically, fun side of it. It's just cold, dark, miserable.
Oh, so it's definitely sun.
Yeah.
So there's some of the listeners, they have families as well. I wanted to go into, you were burnt out, right? Well, you could see sort of where you were headed if you followed that track, right? Yep. Like, how did you plan it? Like, there would have been so many things, there would have been so many things like holding you back. There's a lot of excuses, right? You had kids. You've got, my understanding, you've got 5 kids, right? Maybe 3 at the time.
Yep.
Brian. How did you do that? Because some people then, there's some people back at home in Melbourne, right? Ripping them out of school.
Yeah.
Right? Those sort of things that like are on top of mind for them, right?
Yeah, true. I think it was probably a little bit easier for us because at that stage we really only had 1 in school, and the youngest at the time, who was probably kinder sort of age anyway. So it was a bit of a try before you buy, essentially. Like we set up that 6 months and just said, let's do 6 months and see how it works. Let's see how the kids respond to it. Let's see how we respond to it. Let's see what comes out of it. And then I think it wasn't long into that first 6 month stint that we said, this is us, this is 100% us. We just have to make this consistently part of our life. We would have loved to have done it full time, but my business back home, which was essentially supporting, our life, we needed to keep that going. We did look prior to coming to Bali at sort of the option of going, can this business be run, essentially with me being away for 6 months? I mean, I worked on the business every day here, but, put managers in place that would do a lot of my stuff. And, I think pretty quickly in that first 6 month stint that I worked out that I was a better business owner and manager from afar, because I wasn't drawn into the everyday little things, that people, if you're not there, suddenly they're pretty good at working out, but if you're there, you're just an easy option. And if you're not good at saying no, which probably was my fault, that I'd happily jump in and go, oh yeah, I'll fix that tyre. I'll work back late tonight and make sure that's ready tomorrow. And then when you remove yourself, suddenly all these people step up and they start doing those things. And you're like, oh, hang on. Yeah, all I had to do was really just sort of back out of it.
Okay.
And you're still on the phone. We had a, 2 or 3 hour time difference depending on whether it was daylight savings or not. So very manageable. And the Wi-Fi worked well, still does here. And so it was either move to Bali, get some sanity back, get off the treadmill, get your life back, get your health back, reconnect with your family, or shut the business and sell, what you can out of it to sort of fund that sort of next venture. But
did you have any fear of it not working out?
I don't remember having that fear. I probably did have some apprehension about it, but I think I was just that far cooked that I thought it's got to be better than what's going on here.
Yes.
I think I was pretty close to probably, falling in a heap, essentially. And I knew that, and I was just like, nah, this has got to be a better way, So let's do this. And yeah, within no time of being here, and the connections we made at the school and the community there, and within the local area of Brawa where we were living with locals and other expats, was amazing.
Yeah.
And we just found our tribe. We certainly found our tribe.
That's perfect. And your kids, how did they assimilate, I guess, or how did they feel about that?
How about leaving home? Yeah, how did they feel about leaving home?
Yeah, surprisingly, the kids were a whole lot better than probably I would have been as a kid. I think I would have almost ran away, if my folks had have said, we're moving to another country.
Even our friends,
Yeah, I would have just, are you kidding? But yeah, the kids have always been so fantastic with it. They've just totally embraced it, made friends really quickly here. Other kids, local kids, expat kids at the school. We had them in, different sporting events that were outside of the school. So they still, they had little nippers stuff running when our kids were quite young. They were surfing. They were, my daughter was horse riding. It was amazing. Yeah. So.
Because it kind of sounds like, I was going to ask a question, but you kind of answered it already, like, is it worked out better than you thought it was, easier than you thought it was?
Yeah.
I guess if you had the comparison, if you had actually stayed and your kids, and be in Melbourne, me being from Melbourne as well, Springvale, you and Barry, we don't go out, like the kids now, I guess, don't go out too much, even when, I'm a millennial and I was on my computer playing World of Warcraft the entire time, right? Yeah. Like, how do you think the kids would have, to grow up with like horse riding, just having activities to do?
Yeah, I think the biggest win now is like, having 5 kids, so ranging from 18, 14, 11, 9 and sort of 6 months old, a baby, and now seeing the older kids, the top sort of the 4 older ones, as to how they've developed now compared to, and you've only got people back home as a comparison, right? Their friends and so forth, as to say, that's probably what they'd be doing back home and whatever. It's been incredible. Like the ability for the kids that we see now to be able to adapt to, whatever situation we throw them into, the capacity to navigate themselves around, and not just in Bali, like just in general.
Life skills.
Life skills, absolutely. Like just street smarts, amazing, and ability to communicate with people from wherever, in whatever situation, have an adult conversation at quite a young age. That's probably the biggest thing we've noticed. I think moving the kids to Bali, and now obviously we're full-time here, has been best thing ever.
I like that you touched on that, because it kind of, I always looked at, I took my whole family out in 2018, and my youngest brother at the time was 16. And, in the system that we're from, you go to school, but it's like, what are you really learning? That they ain't teaching you life skills. And I feel like, getting them out of the comfort zone and putting them into life like this is that my little brother learned how to book flights, his geography is much more better than what he would have learned in school. Dealing with money management, planning, he learned so much more. What he needs as life skills is when he was traveling.
Absolutely.
And he's like, right now he's actually living in another country working now.
Yeah.
And, I think if he would have stayed at home, what would he have been like? He would have been like you said, you're looking at other people back home, they'll be in that same position. So I think it was a great decision.
What country is he in now?
What's it called? Bahrain. Yeah, Bahrain.
Oh, wow.
They're not too far from Dubai.
How's my geography going? Where's that?
They're not too far from Dubai. Always. But he's out there now. I spoke to him. We always have a good talk on Sundays.
Great.
And it didn't actually work out how it's supposed to. So the job that he went out there, they made these promises. It's not going that way. But I see he's thinking, but I'm like, this is all learning. Like, you're going to learn something, and later when you're going to look back on this, being, But he's got other opportunities that might come up. They're going to move maybe to another country nearby, because there's some more work there. So we'll see how it is. But again, he's learning. This is the first time he's living at home. He ain't got no mummy's leg to hold on to, because he's the baby of the family.
Right. How old is he now?
He's 20. I'm 22. He'll be 22. So he's 20 years younger than me.
Yep.
Right now, to me, he's like, I'm over the moon with it. I know he feels like right now, like, have I made the right decision? But he's learning these skills which no other kid's going to be learning back home.
No.
And he's on his own. He's got to make decisions on his own. So I always say, like, when I was growing up, we come to a split road, and I'll be with my friends, and I'll say, what do you think? Should we go left or should we go right? But when you travel solo and stuff like that, you got to make these decisions by yourself.
Yep.
And these are real life skills that I think kids need to learn, but we're not learning these skills growing up now in Western countries. So
absolutely,
it's very interesting that hearing your stories with your kids and stuff like that.
Yeah, it is interesting, and it's so it's just a proud moment when you see kids get into situations where their street smarts come out, and I suppose, and you just think, wow, that. I couldn't have done that at that age, and my life was fairly regimented, and school and local sports club, and how it goes back home.
Yeah,
and that was it. You went to that school because that's where the bus took you, and you played football at that club because that was the closest one, and essentially that was it. So to be thrown in the mix of being in another country and have to sort of navigate your way around would have been terrifying. I wouldn't have been able to do what these kids can do. No way. So massive upside.
How do you manage like 5 kids at all different ages?
We get them boxing with Simon. So you try and get them tired, but no, it's actually been we had a 9-year gap from our 4th to our 5th, and our 4th was born in Bali. So we've got a girl that's 18, a boy that's 14, another boy that's 11, a girl that's 9, and then we had that's who was born in Bali. So Coco was born in Bali, and then we had this 9-year gap. And my wife was adamant that she wanted number 5, and we didn't have any luck for quite a few years. And then it happened, and we've got a little boy, Ocean. So, but it's been the most amazing experience ever. You know, we never thought we'd have 5. We thought, okay, 4. That's the end of the chapter, and we've had him. Yeah, we're sure.
Surprise.
But just watching even the older kids and all the other kids with him, like they get such a thrill out of him. What my wife and I talk about it all the time. Just how uplifting it is just to have a baby, but having those kids who are older who can appreciate it.
Yeah,
and they're not just little kids themselves.
And they're part of the growth.
They're part of it.
Yeah,
and you got babysitters, and you've got
Yeah. I mean that's another good thing actually. Being in Bali, how much more easy is it to raise kids?
The best. Like we've been so spoiled. You know, like when we first moved over, when we had we had 4 kids, and then we had a villa in Brawa that we had from, say, 2013 up until mid-COVID. We sold it mid-COVID because we just didn't know whether we were going to be able to get back here. And in that villa, when we were here for 6 months, we had staff that were working the villa for us whilst we were away. And when we were away, we had it on Airbnb and Booking.com, and it was a big place because our theory was, let's get a big place so when we're there, we can have family come and stay with us. And we're all together, extended family. My wife's family is fairly big. And then when we're away, the villa accommodated probably 3 families. So they could all get together. And we tried to really westernise it. So we had, glass approved self-closing gates on the swimming pool and all this sort of stuff. So we're trying to sort of get that market of Aussies, young kids, come to Bali, but still be protected.
Safe.
Yeah.
Balustrading on the staircases.
Yeah, I feel like that's missing here.
Huge. Still, yeah.
Because the families that come here, right, there's not enough grabs. And like one of my friends as well, they've rented a villa, but then they've got the temporary fencing around the
around the temporary fence
as well, because they've got small kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess,
Even traveling wise, it's like, I've heard some people complain when they come over with their families and they're like, I can't really walk my kids, push pram. Now is that, Changi is changing now. They to start put all the payments everywhere, where before there was no payments.
No.
So it's like you're half walking on the road.
Yeah.
With a pram.
I'm interested to know, right? Like, you're in Indonesia, back at home at Oz, you got to be 18, like 16 or 18 to get your license, to drive.
Yeah.
Like here on the motorbikes, what's that look like for your kids, right?
Yeah, well, our 18-year-old, so in Bali you can get a motorbike license when you're 17. So our daughter got her license last year when she was 17, and she's all ticketed up and, she rides. And then our 14-year-old will ride very locally, like we're pretty close to the beach. So, and he surfs a lot, so he'll take his motorbike to the beach and back with 400 metres sort of thing, a pretty quiet road. And he can do sort of some local stuff and bits and pieces, but that's about it. So he doesn't have a free rein. We don't let him go long distance because even though he's very competent and capable, it's, as you know, it's not about us all the time. It's about what's going to come in and hit you. So truck on the wrong side or whatever. So we're still fairly careful there. The younger kids have got little electric pedal bikes and stuff so they can go to the beach. They've got to go a certain way where it's a back way through some alleys and bits and pieces. So,
Yeah, from a safety perspective as well for going to moving to a different country.
Yeah.
Did you have any safety concerns?
We've always been. My wife didn't ride a motorbike for a lot of years, probably up until we came back after COVID. So pretty much in the 7 or 8 years, she just drove a car here. But driving a car in Canggu back then was pretty doable. Like the traffic wasn't bad.
Yes.
But now, since COVID or even leading up to COVID, it got to a point where unless you're on a scooter, it's tough to get around. If you're in a car, double your time anywhere. It's tough.
Yeah.
So she's learned to ride a bike and she's very capable on it, and she'll have a kid or two on the bike with her, and she just trundles along slowly. And she's never had any issues, touch wood. But yeah, I think having a scooter in Bali is essential, huh?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I guess one of the biggest things that I'm really curious to know is your parenting style. What do you tell your kids, right? Because back home, you know how it goes, right? You know how it goes. What do you, how do you, raise 5 kids, and what do you sort of tell them? I guess you're in that green school as well. Do you want to?
Yeah, like a bit free range, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, probably not a lot different to most families and parents back home. We there's bedtimes, and there's still, little jobs they've got to do, and, this sort of thing. But, inherently their life's a lot different. Like now, since COVID, we've come back and all our kids are on, homeschooling, online learning programs. We have a tutor that comes in and works with the kids to get their schooling done. But it's a totally different, it's not rigid. Like yesterday, for example, we've got a tutor that looks after our 9-year-old and 11-year-old schooling at our villa. So it runs from 9 till 2. But yesterday I was with Mosey, and he's our 11-year-old. The surf was really good in the morning, but the tide was wrong to surf before school, which is normally what we'd do. And we just said, okay, you're having a couple of hours off this morning. It's going to be good from 9 to 11. So we surfed, and...
That's our freedom.
That's the freedom, yeah. We're coming back to the freedom clause, So, and Elfie, who's 14, he wraps up his schooling 6 hours a week, 2 hours on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and he's on top of it.
He's on top of it.
Yep. And he has a tutor comes in for those 2 hours. He might have to do a little bit outside of those days, but not a lot. And he's across it. Plus, in addition to the curriculum, he's learning Indonesian Bahasa with his tutor. His tutor's obviously local, so that's an added subject that we're doing as well, and he's going super well.
Yeah, I wonder the kids, like, hey, back at home when I was a kid, I didn't want to go to school, right? Is that the same with your kids?
I think so, yeah.
It's always going to be a thing?
Yeah.
I think that's every kid is doing something. The kids just want to play out.
Yeah.
You're serving, you can do this, you can do that, so that's at home.
Yeah. Fairly similar, but I think it definitely is easier here because, we've structured it to be a shorter day anyway. And they know, like, if something's come up, we can swing it and say, okay, we're doing this and we're getting away Friday, or we're taking a day off midweek, or we haven't got school next week, and we sort of roll like that. But I think we sort of ran a little bit like that too when we went back to Australia, and we mashed the kids back into conventional schooling. And we were really lucky. So where we lived, we had a private government school that was very welcoming for us to be coming and going. And they were like, oh, great, you're back. Yeah, bring the kids in, not a problem. And we're like, oh yeah, we're here for a term, we're here for 2 terms, whatever. Like, no problem. We love what you do. So we were super lucky, because I know that there's a lot of schools who wouldn't be as receptive as that.
Yeah,
pulling kids in and out.
England, they would take you to prison now for that.
Yeah. So we're lucky there. But mind you, if that hadn't have been how the school was approaching and welcoming that sort of aspect for us, we would have just had the kids doing homeschool, which we did on a couple of years. We had the 2 terms were done at home with a tutor would come in back in Australia and do the kids for 2 terms before we returned to Bali again. So we just, I don't know, I suppose we just write our own script, we just like
wave, because it's servers.
Yeah. Right. But if we sort of hear no, you can't do that, we're like, okay, we'll do it anyway. We just won't come to your school. Yeah.
Academic, how does that work? Like, I mean, I did year 12. Like,
me too.
Yeah. So, when you come back, do they learn the curriculum and then they go back to their year 12, or was that?
So Lila, she's just finished year 12. So she was doing year 12 this year, and she's finished year 12. So she's our 18-year-old, and she finished about a month ago, I suppose. So she got through the course early. And but she was doing, like, whenever we're back in Australia, and it's less now, we're only back for 2 months of the year, I've broken sort of tax residency ties with Australia now. So the maximum amount of time that I can be back in Australia is 3 months of any one given year. So we go back for December, January now. So we try, and now what we do is we try and escape wet season in Bali, and we try and get what Melbourne's got to offer for summer. And it's a great time of year back home. Christmas.
Family.
As I said before, my wife's family's big, and we all hang out together, and it's a really good vibe. Whereas Christmas here, which we've done a Christmas or two here before, and it's just different. The religion's different.
Yeah.
You get a little bit of Christmas vibes if you went into, Kuta Walk and there might be some shopping centres with some Christmas trees set up, but outside of that, it's gone.
Yeah, Australia, Christmas. I'll be back for just Christmas, New Year's, my birthday. I'm back here.
Yeah.
It is a bit of the vibe. But you were saying, like, when you do come back to Oz, it would have been, your friends, your other family members that just look at you and just feel like possibly, hadn't you lived this life, or what's going through their heads, right? Are they wanting to do something like this? Things are holding them back.
$1 million question, like what's going through their heads. But I think most people are genuinely pretty excited for us, to think that, oh wow, what an awesome thing. I'm sure there's some knockers, who would be saying, oh God, can you believe they're doing this? And they pull their kids in and out of school, and they haven't got a base learning, and what's going to become of them. I'm sure there's people who would be critical of it, but I think, and kudos to my wife. I think she's been pretty determined and a much stronger one than me to just go, bad luck, that this is what we want to do. We know we're a better unit when we're away. There's so much more that we get out of it when we're overseas and living in Bali. We definitely reconnect really solidly when we're overseas, and particularly Bali. The lifestyle is wonderful. The kids are all swimming, surfing, walking the dog before school every day. You're up early. The weather's good. Even if it's raining, it's still warm. They train a hell of a lot more here. So they're active, that they're doing a heap of sessions with Simon. And so I don't think there's a comparison. Yeah, particularly to Melbourne anyway, Melbourne winters, it's tough to keep young kids active, through Melbourne winter. They're always inside.
Yeah. Where I wanted to go was your oldest daughter. She's 18.
Yeah.
She's just finished school. What does her outlook look like? Yeah.
Yeah, she's sort of working her way forward. So at the moment, she's interested to become a Pilates instructor. She does Pilates here, and she's just finding her groove. Essentially, she's got a boyfriend that's in Australia, an ex-Green School student as well, and family that we knew. So he comes over here a little bit. She will go over there and stay. He's in Adelaide, and he's, when he comes here, he's one of the family. Like, he surfs, he skates, so all the kids are all. Oh yeah, he just becomes fits one of the team. Yeah, fits right in. So she plans to travel next year around Australia with him. He's pretty keen on his, van travel and bits and pieces, and they'll go and travel and do the West Coast. So, Western Australia, up and down there. But who knows? He's travelling at the moment, so he's up on the East Coast. So he's sort of doing, pretty much Sydney up through Queensland and stuff, surfing and stuff with some friends. And we've got a shoot back soon for a conference in the Gold Coast, and a visa run, sort of killing two birds with one stone. So they're connecting again there. They'll spend some time together, and she may end up going back to Adelaide for a few weeks and bits and pieces. So, yeah.
Does she look at this as home more than anything?
Yeah.
Have you had any issues with anything where kids like, I want to go back to Australia or anything?
Yeah, no, she's got a really good network of friends here too.
So she have here.
Got a great life here, and she's got a really great network of friends back home too, you know. So I think she's happy in both spots.
Good balance.
Good balance, and I think she appreciates both spots.
Yeah.
You know, to where she'd call home. I think she'd still call Melbourne home. You know, until say we put down more solid roots here. If we bought a long term sort of thing, and you know, then you sort of start to create that home feeling here again. So, but I suppose we've learnt over the journey too, which is we don't try and look too far ahead anymore. Where, you know, that traditional sort of sense as to where we're going to be in 5 years, and you know, what about 10 years time, and you know, such and such is this age, and they'll be doing year 10, and where we're going to be, and we're going to work that out. We're just like, we don't know where we'll be next year. You know, so it's a year-to-year campaign for us at best. And yeah, next year we're back again, obviously, in Bali. We'll go back for 2 months. We'll come back here. We want to travel to Japan in February. That's our plans at this stage, and we want to do some more Europe travel in the second half of next year. But we'll do all that travel as from Bali base. So, you know, we'll leave from here, come back to here. But beyond that, don't know. And we've learned for that to be okay to not know.
Yeah.
So
We're comfortable with it.
Yeah, because I think it'd be hard for a lot of people if they don't have that security of knowing.
Oh, absolutely. We struggle with that. We struggle with that big time. Like, where we're going to be in 5 years, where we're going to be in 2 years. And I remember speaking to people at the school and stuff, and, you know, talking to them and saying, so what are your plans, you know, next year and year after? And they go, we don't know. You know, and they had 3, 4 kids, you know, plenty of families up there with similar numbers as us. And we're like, oh, wow, I love that, you know. And you just got to break that mold, you know, because we're so programmed to have that planning set out. We can't do anything until this kid finishes high school. And then we've got another 3 kids, so that's going to be another 15 years worth of high school before we do anything. But you've missed a boat, you know. We're not getting any younger as parents either. So, you know, we don't want to be, you know, at that point of, oh, great, we've got all our kids through year 12, and, you know, now we've got a 0-year-old, and, you know, put another 18 years on me. You know, I'm not going to, well, I hope I'm going to be active, but certainly not as active as I am now. So it's like, no, this is crazy, you know. We'll work all that stuff out, you know, and not put that pressure on ourselves as feeling like we've got to remain in that program. And you and I have spoken a lot about this, haven't we? It's that indoctrination of mindset as to how you got to live your life. Get on the treadmill. Earn your money, pay your taxes, be a good citizen, be a good person of the community, contribute back, you know, be told, get the jab, do this, you know, digital currency potentially coming down the line. We know we're going to control what you do, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, it's like, no, we're going to write our own rule book.
Yeah. What was your experience coming here in terms of like the network? Right, of you making friends in in a new country. Yeah. What was that like? We were super privileged to join into the Green School when we did, because that community of family and parents, I mean, they had a parent hub essentially. So you could go there, for example, drop your kids, and they had an amazing parent hub, you know, cafe, coffee shop, high-speed internet, discussion groups, presentations just within that parent group itself. So, and they had, you know, bike riding activities for parents, walking clubs, you know, tours, you name it. So you build this beautiful hub of people that you become super close with, you know, and from all countries around the world. I think when we first started, Green School had 65 different nationalities from around the world of parents and kids. And it was amazing, you know, like we were catching up, you know, after school weekends with, you know, dinners and functions and stuff so there was no shortage of social connection. It was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, when you one of the most normal people watching this is that everyone's stuck in their bubbles. And that, I think it's so cool. For me, when traveling, I've met, even in London, when you do have very multicultural where I come from, it's different. When I travel, I get to meet the best multicultural in that sense, and you learn so much more. It opens up your mind.
Absolutely.
Good man.
I think for one thing that we learned really quick was that because, in Bali, essentially, I mean, you've got a commonality, which is that you're trying to find something a bit different than what your current life back home, wherever home may be, is. You're searching for something different, something more, something that really gets your juices flowing. So when you meet people over here, they've essentially been through that same headspace. So you connect on that level initially. Straight away, it's like, we just felt like we wanted to do something, wanted to give our kids an experience, and we wanted to slow the treadmill of life down. So you've got that as a base common theme, I suppose. And then you just find that you had so much more other things in common. You're very similar people. And no matter where you're from in the world, it was just like, oh, wow, it sounds a whole lot like our story,
Yeah, it's cool. Being on the same sort of wavelength. So out of those 65 countries, where are they? I mean, they're probably from every bit.
Everywhere. It was bizarre. I remember going into the orientation day, and we were complete newbies. When we first came, and we were sort of walking around, like, wow, look at this place, because the place is amazing in itself. They're architecturally designed bamboo structures.
What's it called?
Green School, Bali.
Okay, I'll put it down.
You got to Google it. It's just like, whoa, got a river that runs through a section of the school, and there's a vortex that runs off the river that drives 80% of its electricity, and all about sustainability and environment and preservation of the planet, and it does a beautiful job. It was the most amazing experience ever. And going on this orientation day, I still remember, there'd be people from Russia, Japan, South Korea, America, UK, anywhere you can think of. It was just really wow. And I still remember bumping into, on our tour, we had a chap, husband and wife from Russia, and I was speaking to him, and I said, this is obviously well before any wars broke out. We're talking 2013. And things are pretty stable over there. And I remember speaking to him saying, so what have you got back home? Where do you live, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, oh, no, we don't, we've sold everything. We've turned up to Bali, sight unseen. We've heard about the school. We've got our suitcases. This is our life. I was like, I don't feel like. So there's no base security blankets like we had. If things didn't work out to go back to, they've left. They're making this home.
Yeah, they fully committed.
Fully committed.
Though, there's no going back, isn't
it? Yeah. So I remember that, putting it in perspective for us. It's like, oh, this is a walk in the park. We're a 6-hour flight away. If things don't work out, it's easy for us. These people have flown the other side of the planet, left everything behind, sold up, and are going, we've seen it online. This is the school we want our kids to go to, and we are living here. Yeah. And they made it work.
Have you heard, what was that scene? I'm not going to remember it. There's one army that had got to somewhere and had burned all their boats and said to the people that we ain't going back. We're only going forward. And it was such a good concept, because it's in one of the self-development books I was reading. And it's like, when he got there, he's like, when he burned all the boats, it just showed to people that we're going forward, we're committed, we're 100% committed to this, So when I hear that, it's like, them people, that's like a massive step for people, a decision to do. And they had kids as well.
Yeah, kids as well. That was super inspiring to me. It was just like, wow, that's like having a crack, what I mean? Like, that's proper, we're going to make this work. And it was still like, they were committing to 2 or 3 years, and after that, who knows, And I know those families aren't here anymore, so they've moved on to other spots of the planet, and I know other people have done time in Portugal since being here, and some have gone back to their own countries, others travelling, and some sort of meander back here a little bit. So, it certainly opens doors anyway. It opens your mind.
Yeah, so I was looking to say that it opens up your mind on a different level. I mean, how much have you changed from that? I mean, what do you see in yourself?
Lucky my wife's not here. Yeah, look, I reckon. I mean, I needed to change because it was just, back home, as you would appreciate it, and same as the UK, no doubt. It's head down, bum up. That's how you go, and that's what you've been told, that's how you get ahead. Just get your head down and your bum up and go as hard as you can. And you lose perspective of what's of value, and Bali's that beautiful, beautiful thing that when you come here and you rent a place, you hire a scooter, you might hire a car, which we did, for a few years. You got some surfboards, and that's your possessions. Most villas are fully furnished, so you don't have anything else. You get your clothes, a rented scooter, a rented car. You got your surfboards. That's it. The possessions that we have back home, insane. Like vehicles, boats, bloody all the toys, all the stuff that you think you need, because that's essentially where everyone's going. And then you come here and you got such little personal possessions. You get around in t-shirt and shorts, irrespective of what day of the week it is, and you're so much happier, And that's probably been something that's changed in me, is when I go back now, and probably more so when we were going back for 6 months. It took me a long time. I felt uneasy about how much personal possessions I had back home, and that used to grind my gears as to, why have I got all this stuff? We don't need it. I'm so much happier when I've got such little personal possessions, and I'm so time poor back home in Australia of all this shit that I haven't even got time to use. And I come here and I've got so much more time with my wife, with kids, like my wife and I, we get the kids sort of rolling in the morning and bits and pieces, and, we're off having coffee and a breakfast together, and, it's just, we'll talk about stuff that you never get a chance to talk about.
Yeah, I'm just curious now what your daily life sort of looks like.
Yeah, I was thinking about that one as well. Yeah, for the people watching this, that.
Yeah, the day sort of starts obviously having a newborn, and he's not sleeping too well, so I'll try and my wife does a great job through the night. Like, she's up and down, still breastfeeding, so she's feeding on demand. And we've always been like that. And he sleeps in our room, so if he wants to wake up and have a drink, it's green light, go. So, but come to the morning and he wakes up at 6:30 and says, I'm not going to go back to sleep. I'm ready to rock. So I'll try and take him, and I'll go for a walk, take the dog, take him. I'll check with the kids who wants to go down to the beach, who wants to surf. I'll normally check the surf on the cameras to see if there's anything happening. And if there's a good surf, I'll wake up, one or two of the kids and say, come down, have a surf. And I'll hang on the beach with the baby, get them back about 8:30, make their breakfast. If it's a school day, a teacher rolls in at 9. Kids are ready to go. We've got a designated sort of room that's their classroom, and the way the day goes, and then it's like, okay, cool. This is our time. So my wife and I will head out. We have a nanny then that arrives roughly the same time the kids start school, and she's wonderful. And getting back to what you were saying before, is like raising kids in Bali, like especially little kids, when you've got that help.
Yes.
And with such beautiful people, whether they're Javanese or Balinese, it doesn't matter. It's so exquisitely lovely with your kids, and they love them as much as we do.
Yeah, I noticed that with a lot of the parents where they got a baby minder nanny, that the women here, they really love that as a job. They're so happy to take on that role.
Yeah,
they're really, really happy.
Absolutely, it's genuine. It's so genuine.
It must be so good for people in your position to have that.
Oh, it's beautiful because you don't get that uneasy child that's looking over the shoulder of the nanny as you're scooting off to have breakfast or a coffee. They're like, hey, we're cool. We've got the nanny. We're in love too. So it's like, go and have as long as you want. We've got the nanny, you know. So, but it's been an absolute, you know, blessing, you know, with our other kids. They were, you know, we had great support, you know, getting back to our villa that we had in Broa for that 8 or 9 year stint, because we had so many staff there to cater for, you know, 3 families and stuff when it was rented out when we weren't there. And we obviously kept them on full time. So when we came as one family, you know, we had so many staff. It was silly. And we used to, you know, obviously lessen their hours and say, just, you know, go have a day off.
Yeah.
You don't need to be here. We haven't got 16 people to take care of. But the kids were just, you know, beautiful relationship with all the staff. And at the drop of a hat, we could zip out, have dinner together, and the kids were safe at home. And, you know, so
It's that freedom, I guess.
yeah,
That's the main thing about this, the freedom.
yeah, the freedom again. And that was the icing on the cake, you know, to have your kids totally cared for, totally loved. You know, we've still got beautiful relationships with the people that looked after our kids at a young age. You know, they don't work for us anymore, but, you know, we still catch up with them and
have a relationship with them, and the kids have a relationship.
and they still are super, you know, connected. You know, super connected with them. It's amazing. So, yeah, I was thinking about our day. So once the nanny comes in, yeah, as I said, my wife and I'll go out, and then we'll probably come back an hour and a half later.
Where do you not go?
Pardon?
Where do you not go?
We've got a few little haunts close to us in Brown. Yeah.
German?
Yeah. So we sort of zip around to a few little favourite coffee shops, and, you know, we'll have brekkie together, and we'll bump into a few expats and bits and pieces, and, you know, we'll chew the fat and talk about solve the problems of the world. And then we'll get back and we'll do, anywhere between 3 and 4 hours a day maybe on our business that we've got going back home. And sort of get back in the real world a little bit, and, you know, keep the gears turning. And then by the time the kids have finished school, 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, we're sort of pretty much done with our commitments back home, business sense. And then, we're back down the beach. Kids will have an afternoon surf again maybe, or we'll go to the skate park, or we've got boxing with you.
Yes.
Training, that's a few nights a week with the younger ones. And Elfie, who's 14, he's pretty self-sufficient, so he's got one-on-one stuff with Simon and another coach, and he gets himself with Gojeks, you know, to and from sessions. So yeah, we don't have to worry about him too much. So just
I feel like you don't even have to raise your own kids. Get them that engaged.
Simon does it. But that's super. You know, like back home, you know, I think you remember, I probably talked to you early days when we came over and we met you, and Elfie had found you online, I think, as coaching. And so Elfie had started boxing maybe a year ago, and he progressively got more interested in it, and then wanted to, you know, compete and that sort of stuff. So started boxing in Australia late last year and found some good coaches. But the most important thing for me was to find a mentor. So not just be a coach, but a mentor, because, you know, we really wanted to have someone that it wasn't about, you know, knowing how to fight. It's obviously discipline, you know, self-discipline, diet, you know, a training regime, sticking with it, you know, going to bed at the right time to be able to get up and train early, you know, progress and everything like that. And we didn't want, you know, obviously you've got boxing and you've got, you know, a semi sort of thug side to boxing, or you've got a really developmental side of boxing. And Elfie had come to us and found Simon online. I think this is going to be a great coach for me. And we reached out, or Elfie reached out to Simon. And I remember chatting to him early days, saying, you know, this is what I'm after. You know, I want someone to really help, you know, work as a mentor with Elfie. You know, I think he's got a bit to offer, but more importantly, just develop him as a young man, you know, and what a perfect match, you know, like that's exactly, you know, this is what Simon does. You see him with all his subjects, and he's exactly that. He knows how to play kids. He knows how to play young teenage boys who are, you know, full of testosterone, and they crack the shit. So throw their gloves. Yeah, but perfect, you know. Like,
I enjoy it.
yeah, you get
And I'm learning all the time as well. It's like it's like with boxing, you never stop learning. But like even with the kids, I've been working with kids most of my life. But it's like I do love a challenge, you know. And
You've had some,
and sometimes they come and I'm like, you know what, I'm not giving up on this. I'm gonna crack it. And when I do crack it, I'm like, yes.
Yeah. No, you do it well. It's we've seen a few flare ups at the gym.
I think the hardest one is Mosley. But Mosley's actually sitting over there watching that. He's the most easiest one. Very quiet but determined, hard working. So.
Yeah, he's our easiest one as a kid too. He's pretty crazy. Yeah.
So I guess back at home, maybe there are some, we're in 2024 now, right? And things are going to the shit, right? Like really, right? And people are struggling big time sometimes, right? Do you have any sort of advice that, or some of them might be thinking about possibly having this lifestyle, how to sort of approach it, or maybe even just sort of what to think about or what the next steps are? Yeah.
So do you mean in terms of things are going to shit in terms of politically and
just
cost of living, all that sort of stuff?
In terms of, with all those things like inflation, cost of livings, right? Cost of living, I can't afford to buy a house, right? And then there's this quite dullness and out of reach sort of, you're stuck into, you just don't have any hope, right?
Yeah. Despair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we had a little brief discussion before we started the podcast and we would often get families that we speak to when we're back home, friends or people we might meet or whatever, and say, I wish I could do what you guys do. And it's like, well, I know they're financially pretty secure and nothing's stopping them except themselves. Yeah. And having what we touched on before about, I see people who land here from, Russia, for example, and America with just their suitcases under their arms and said, we sold the lot and we're out of here, or they rent their house out. It's so doable. It's so doable. I mean, you can live here cheaper than you can live in Australia, 100%. All right. Rent's expensive if you want to be close to the beach. But if you're not close to the beach and you're prepared to be a little bit further inland, you can find great places cheap. It's just about how you're prepared to live that part of your life. I mean, every place has got a pool, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you're not doing it hard. But I think people just got to realise, especially, speaking, and I'm not trying to tell people what's right or wrong, but for me, I still remember speaking to a chap years and years ago, before we started coming to Bali, and he just said, your kids grow up so quick, essentially you'll probably have 16, 17 summers with them until they don't want to be around you anymore, unless you're paying for the trip. They'll jump on board. But it's so true. I see our 18-year-old daughter and, she'll be travelling next year and, she travels back to Australia by herself now and, catches up with friends and boyfriend. It's like, where did that go? It's like, it's gone. It's gone. So you've definitely got to be able to slow that down.